Right now, Xiaomi is in the process of expanding to international markets. Xiaomi's flagship in most markets today is the Xiaomi Mi 3. They seem to have got the pricing right, and wherever they go, the Mi 3 sells out real quick. Now simultaneously, Xiaomi has launched its successor in China, and it should follow the Mi 3 to international markets sometime towards the end of the year maybe. So in this video, we're gonna pit this successor, the Mi 4, against the Mi 3 and see what's exactly changed. Based on that, we're gonna try to answer 3 questions. 1. If either both the Mi 3 and the Mi 4 are or are not available in your market and you had to make a decision, should you choose the Mi 4 over the Mi 3? Question number 2. Under the same scenario, if you do own a Mi 3 already, should you consider switching to a Mi 4? Question 3. If you have the Mi 3 available in your market, if Xiaomi is selling the Mi 3 in your market, is the Mi 4 worth paying an extra premium and importing? So before we do that though, if this is your first time here or in case you've plain old forgotten, my name's Ash and you're watching C4E Tech. Let's get started. Let's start with the design. Though both phones sport 5-inch displays, the Mi 4 is narrower and shorter thanks in large to the smaller bezels. It is a little thicker and the heavier of the two since it trades away the Mi 3's polycarbonate body for a metal frame with a user-replaceable plastic back. Xiaomi will be selling a range of backplates to help you customize your phone. While I've had no issues using the Mi 3 single-handed, the Mi 4 does feel better ergonomically. So though I feel that the Mi 4 is better designed, it does resemble a certain other device a lot, and that means you've got a higher chance of being perceived as using a cheap Chinese knockoff. So that being said, and with no obvious signs of corners being cut on either device, I'm gonna leave this round to your personal preference and call it a tie. So next up, we move on to the displays. While both phones use 5-inch Full HD IPS displays, the Mi 4 uses OGS or One Glass Solution technology. This greatly reduces the display thickness and results in better viewing angles and the icons appearing to just float on screen. The backlight on the display on the Mi 4 is also more uniform and the display is brighter with visibility outdoors being better. While the Mi 3 uses Gorilla Glass 3 for protection, at least in some markets, the Mi 4 uses Concord Glass instead. Keep in mind both are sourced from the same manufacturer, Corning. So with that, the Mi 4 wins this round and goes up 1-0 now. That being said, the display on the Mi 3 is still very good. You're not really gonna notice a difference unless you're looking at both displays side by side. Anyway, next up we get the specs, and there's quite a bit of confusion here. I've been asked this a lot by you guys, so let me first clear this up. First off, let's take a look at the differences between Snapdragon 800 and 801. Both 800 and 801 use Krait 400 cores and an Adreno 330 GPU. There are 3 common combinations here. Combination 1, chips ending in AA. Here the CPU cores are clocked at 2.3 GHz each or lower, and the GPU is clocked at 450 MHz. Now, this is definitely called Snapdragon 800. Phones that use this chip include the Galaxy Note 3, LG G2, Lumia 1520, LG G Flex, etc. And then we have the chips ending in AC. This is when both the CPU and GPU are clocked higher. The CPU at 2.5 GHz and the GPU at 578 MHz. This is definitely called Snapdragon 801. Again, examples include Samsung Galaxy S5, OnePlus One, Oppo Find 7, and even the Xiaomi Mi 4 that we're seeing in this video. Now the confusion is with the third option here, the chips ending AB. And here the CPU remains clocked at 2.3 GHz, but the GPU is clocked higher at 578 MHz. So phones using this combination are still called as having Snapdragon 801 inside. This list includes the Oppo Find 7a, the Sony Xperia Z2, the Vivo X-Play 3s. They're all using the 8974AB chip. The 9 there stands for LTE, and again, these phones are marketed as having Snapdragon 801 on board. Fair enough. Now there's another chip, the 8274AB. This, if you notice, this has a 2 instead of the 9. It's 8274 instead of 8974AB. So what that basically means is that this chip comes with a 3G modem instead of LTE. It's still the same chip. The CPU is clocked at 2.3 GHz, the GPU at 578 MHz, and the Mi 3 is using this chip. So when the Mi 3 originally launched, when it came out, there was no Snapdragon 801, so Xiaomi marketed it as Snapdragon 800 inside and continues to do so till date. Now this is the reason why a lot of benchmarking apps will show the Mi 3 as having a Snapdragon 801 chipset. So yes, phones with LTE with the same configuration are mentioned as having Snapdragon 801 inside, but when it comes to this particular chip 8274AB, it's still called Snapdragon 800, but it's basically the same chip, but just with 3G instead of LTE. So now that we've cleared that up, the major difference here between the Mi 3 and Mi 4 in terms of specs is that the Mi 4 has an extra gig of RAM. It has a 200 MHz clock speed advantage, while the GPU is virtually identical. Also note the Mi 4 uses eMMC 5.0, resulting in faster read-write speeds. Apart from that, the Mi 4 adds an IR blaster to the mix, but it does lose NFC functionality found on the Mi 3. But despite that, the Mi 4 does take this round hardware and goes up 2-0. When it comes to audio quality, there's almost no difference here. Average levels of output via the internal speaker with excellent audio from the headphones on both phones. So we have another tie here. The scores remain 2-0 in favor of the Mi 4. Next, we move on to what I feel is the Mi 3's strongest suit, battery life. Well, the Mi 3 sports a 30-50 mAh non-user replaceable battery. The Mi 4 has 30 mAh more, and again, it's non-user replaceable. Is this 30 mAh increase enough to manage the increased clock speed and higher brightness levels? Unfortunately not. Don't get me wrong here, the battery life on the Mi 4 is good. It lasts 8 hours on a looping video playback test and gets me through a day on a single charge on most days. But the battery life on the Mi 3 is better than good. It's excellent. I've used the Mi 3 as my daily driver for the better part of this year, and there have been days where I've forgotten to plug it in to charge in the night, and it's ended up almost lasting me through the next day as well. So now to put that into numbers, it lasts almost 11 hours on a looping video playback test. So finally the Mi 3 opens account, but the Mi 4 still leads 2-1. Next up, we move on to the cameras. Both phones sport 13 megapixel rear cameras, while the one on the Mi 3 uses a Sony's older IMX135 sensor with a 5-element lens with f/2.2 aperture. The one on the Mi 4 uses Sony's latest IMX214 sensor with a 6-element lens with f/1.8 aperture. As you can see, the pictures shot with the Mi 4 are a little better, more detail, lesser noise. Especially with macro shots, the Mi 4 produces beautiful bokehs or blurring of the background thanks to the wider aperture, and that's again visible under low light. Now, despite the Mi 4 opting for a single LED flash instead of the dual LED configuration on its predecessor, it still shines thanks to the wider aperture. Also note the Mi 4 can shoot 4K video while the Mi 3 can only shoot in full HD. Now the front camera on the Mi 3 is a decent 2 megapixel shooter, not bad by any means, but with the Mi 4, Xiaomi has taken things to a whole new level by incorporating a very capable 8 megapixel camera here. The results are impressive and blow the 2 megapixel front shooter on the Mi 3 away. While the UI on both devices are similar, the Mi 4 does have a few extra tricks up its sleeve, like the manual refocus mode or the HDR video mode that the Mi 3 lacks. Also notice that the Mi 4 does have better autofocus speeds here. And with that, the Mi 4 takes the win and extends its lead 3-1. Next up, we get to software, and there is absolutely no difference here. It's exactly the same to the point where you could actually flash a ROM meant for the Mi 3 onto the Mi 4 and vice versa. So we have another tie here. Finally, we move on to price, and as expected, the newer phone does cost a little higher, and that means the final scoreline reads 3-2 in favor of the Mi 4. So at the start of this video, I told you guys there were 3 questions that I was going to answer. So let me do that now. Question 1. If both these phones are sold in your country, or if both are not sold in your country, should you go with the Mi 4 over the Mi 3? I'd say yes, go with the Mi 4. It seems to be the better device. It's a little bit more refined, it's got better specs. It is worth the extra money you'd have to pay. Question 2. Under the same scenario, if you already have a Mi 3, should you get a Mi 4? I'm gonna say no here. Yes, the Mi 4 is a great device. Yes, it's got better specs, but it is more of an evolutionary upgrade from the Mi 3. So if you do own a Mi 3 already, it's still a pretty stellar device today, capable of handling pretty much anything that you throw at it. So I don't really see a point in upgrading from the Mi 3 to a Mi 4. So that brings us to question number 3. If only the Mi 3 is sold in your country, should you pay a premium and import a Mi 4? Again, I'd have to go with no here. If like here in India where the Mi 3 is being sold directly by Xiaomi, even like I said, even by today's standards, the Mi 3 is still a great phone. So I don't see a point in paying an extra premium and importing a Mi 4, paying reseller costs, paying shipping and paying customs duties. It just doesn't make sense. Anyway, if you do decide to get either of these phones and they aren't available in your country, you can pick them up from XiaomiWorld.com. I found them to be one of the best resellers for Xiaomi products. I'll leave a direct link to XiaomiWorld.com down below in the description. Additionally, you can use the discount code C4eTech to get $5 off. The value of the code and or the code itself might change in the future. If and when it does, I'll let you know in the description, so do check that space before you place an order. So anyway, these were just my thoughts on the Mi 3 against the Mi 4. Do you guys agree? Do you have a different take on the subject? You feel I missed something? You feel I should have looked at something different? I'd love to hear what you have to say. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. So with that, we get to the end of this video. Hope you liked it. Hope you found it useful. If you did, please do give this video a thumbs up. And for more videos like this, do stay subscribed. So I guess that's pretty much it, guys. Thanks a lot for watching. Till next time, this is Ash here from C4eTech signing off. You guys have a great day. Bye bye now.